Hi, this is Julie over at Mama J's Pens. Today we're going to be putting together a cigar pen from Penn State Industries. As you can see here, their version of it is called a Big Ben. This blank right here is from my friend over at NV Woodworks, Zach Higgins. So the first thing that we're going to do today is we have our tubes that are out of the kit. So first we're going to use the tubes and we're going to measure where we need to cut the blank. Then we're going to mark the blank with the letter A. That way when we cut the blank, we know which piece goes to which tube. Now that that's marked, we're going to mark the second one B. And we're going to mark our blank B. So next we're going to take our tubes and we're going to use this sheet of dental wax to cover the holes so we do not get any glue or 5-minute epoxy in there, so that it doesn't mess with the workings of the pen. I found this dental wax on Amazon. I'll put a link in the show notes. So we're going to put that aside, and now we're going to cut the blank. Now the blank we cut, as you see, we've matched them up with the tubes. So next what we're going to do is we're going to mark the place where we're going to drill on both blanks for the tube. This is a really neat center finder that I found at Woodcraft. You want to make sure that you do mark both ends of the blank. I know it's easy sometimes to get lazy and only mark one side of the blank, or I've been doing this enough. I don't need to mark the blank. Your best bet is to mark the blank. So now we're going to place the blank in the pen vise for the drilling of the holes to fit the tubes in. It's really important when you're drilling these blanks out that you go slow and that you clean off the drill bit as you go, because what you'll find out is that drill bit's going to get really, really hot inside of it, and it's going to be dust, and you don't really want that. I usually go to a count of 10 and then bring it up, and go down again. I'm sorry, a count of 5 and then bring it up. Always like to keep my drill press and working area, free of the ribbons from the resin and whatnot. Here I am placing the second blank in, getting ready to be drilled. And you'll see me using a paintbrush to get the shavings off the drill bit, because that drill bit will be very, very hot. I do want to apologize for my body parts being in the way. I'm still new to how to record these videos, so thank you. Okay, guys, here we are after we've drilled the blanks. We are getting ready to glue the blanks in. Um, I use Gorilla Glue 5-minute epoxy because whenever I used CA, um, I never had good luck with them. I kept having blowouts. So this way I decided to try. And knock on wood, I have not had a blowout since I've been using the Gorilla Glue 5-minute epoxy. It is important that you always have safety glasses and gloves on if required. Make sure you're in a well ventilated area. One more thing, you guys need to make sure that when you're using any type of epoxy glue or whatever, that you do mix it for the amount of time required, because if it is a two-part adhesive, it's how well you mix it affects the way that the chemical reaction happens to hold together whatever it is you're using it with. One really important thing to mention is that when I use this 5-minute epoxy, what I do is I coat both the tube and the inside of the blank. And if you can see as I'm twisting, I'll twist the tube as I'm putting it in the blank. So that way, if there's any excess, I scrape it off at the end. And because we put the wax in, the hole's covered, so you don't really have to worry about the 5-minute epoxy going into it. And these brushes I use are some cheap little throwaway brushes. Okay, what we're getting ready to do right now is we're going to remove the wax that we put into the tube ends, and then we're going to square off the pen blank. I like to use a toothpick or a wooden skewer for poking the wax out. It's really good. It's really important that you make a good job of cleaning out the wax, because that will also interfere with how your pen fits together. Okay guys, now we're over here at my lathe, and I no longer use a pen mandrel. I turn between centers now. I've bent entirely too many pen mandrels, and just haven't come across any that are 100% straight. So now I turn between centers, and Brian over at TBC Bushings has a really great product. I love the bushings that he makes, and you should check them out. It's tbcbushings.com. Okay, here I use a Turncraft Commander from Penn State Industries. I have my bushings between my two centers, and I'm ready to turn. Okay, here I'm using my spindle gouge to rough out the blanks, and then I usually go to my carbide cutters afterwards. And here you have, we are starting the sanding process. I usually start at like 150 grit, and I do wet sand, and then I go to up to 12,000 with my micro mesh. That's what I found works for me, so that's what I use. Some people like micro mesh, some people don't. It's all your preference. Another thing you will see is that I do wet sand. I wet sand in all of my grits, and after each grit, I do wipe off the slurry that forms. This is after the wet sanding, the micro mesh, and after my finish. And use plastic polish, sometimes car wax. It all depends on what I'm feeling. Here is my assembly disassembly uh, thingamajig for my pens. I have gotten real comfortable with assembling and disassembling pens in the short time that I've been turning. And I really, really like this assembly disassembly. product. It's really important that you, after you turn your blank pieces, that you take the time to open up the pen kit and get everything organized in the order that you're putting it together in. It will save you a lot of time having to disassemble the pen, reassemble it. You might want to sit down, maybe read the directions before you put it together. Or, if you like an adventure, try and put it together without. But I do recommend that you put it together the way the directions say. And here you see putting the last pieces together. Nothing else needs to be pressed together with the assembly disassembly tool. Um, I found that the Cigar or the Big Ben version is one of my favorite pens to turn. It's also, something easy to turn. I have to say one of the first that I turned was actually a slimline, and once you get used to doing, if you have to have two pen tubes, everybody's like, oh, that's the easiest to start with. Well, it's not really the easiest to start with, but I wouldn't recommend starting with like a junior gent or anything like that, but that's entirely up to you. And here you go, it's completed. And that's one beautiful pen. Thanks for watching.